Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today our sutta is taken from the Samyutta Nikaya, the connected discourses of the Buddha. The great book, Mahavagga, chapter 5. The title is The Body. This sutta deals with the food or the nutriments that feed the hindrances. So, first, I like to explain the meaning of hindrances. The Pali word for hindrances is nivarana. Nivarana. You don't have to remember all the words. They are 5 qualities of the mind that could blind our mental vision. These 5 are sensual desire or sensual lust, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and skeptical doubt. If you remember, we came across 4 of them when we looked at the fetters the last time. I'll give you the Pali names as we go on, right? These can hinder our clear understanding of anything and even our progress. Under their influence, we could do wrong and unskillful, unwholesome things. The Buddha says the 5 hindrances are a heap of the unwholesome. Let's take them one by one. The first is sensual desire or lust. Now the word for that in Pali is kama chanda. Though it is really an enemy, the world thinks that it is something essential to our happiness. The advertisements cry out about the newest discovery in cars, clothes, houses, etc., etc., everything. And ordinary people hanker after them, trying to gratify their desires. Not all beings are able to satisfy their desires, so that there is dissatisfaction and frustration, frustration too. Tasting good food, seeing beautiful sights, hearing pleasing sounds, smelling good fragrances, having pleasant touch sensations, and even thinking pleasant thoughts give this illusory happiness, and we get attached to it. Really speaking, this is just sense consciousness, and there is nothing personal about them. The senses do not create karma for us, but our minds do. If someone gets drunk or take drugs and hurt others, it will result in bad karma. Sensual desire for the internal, that is the person, individual, for the internal is the desire for one's own aggregates. Now let me explain the word aggregates to you. Now, aggregates in Pali is called Panchaskandha. The aggregates are this form, right? Form, then feeling, form, feeling, perceptions. Then volitional formations, that means thoughts, and consciousness. These five are called the aggregates by Buddha because they are heaps of things to put together, and we see it as one solid thing, but it contains so many little cells. So, now sensual desire for the internal is the desire for one's own aggregates, that is the body and the mind. And the sensual desire for the external is the desire for the external aggregates of others. The Buddha says, now this might interest you, I do not see even one other form, sound, odor, taste, or touch as that of a woman that so obsesses the mind of a man. Now don't think it's only for a man. Also, the same is said about the obsession of a woman for the same sensations of a man. Now, you may feel that according to the Dhamma, it is bad to love someone. Read a novel, watch a TV show, eat something you like, dress fashionably, etc., etc. You know, all the things that we do. But that's not the advice of the Buddha. What is meant is that overindulgence, you know, going over anything, right? Overindulgence is anything, in anything, it can bring unseen results. Things that we never thought of can happen to us when we go beyond what should be done. We go, above the limitations. For instance, a married person gets involved in a clandestine love affair and bring misery and heartbreak for one's spouse and children. Living in the world, one needs to satisfy the senses. You can't live like a monastic, you know, when you are in the world. You have to live your world. You have to do a job and look after children, look after the house, all kinds of things. But it is important to know the limitations where you have to cut, right? Now, a Western monastic who went to Ajahn Chah's monastery. Now, I had better tell you, as those who don't know, Ajahn Chah, now he is no longer living. He, he was the abbot of a big monastery in Thailand. And he was supposed to have attained to higher spiritual attainments. So, now, this Western monastic went to Ajahn Chah's monastery to train. And he had a sensory experience that ended in awareness and realization. Now, I shortened the story from what he had said. Now, this is the story, right? For the midday meal, big pots of food and trays of cakes and sweets would be set out for all the monks. They would walk down the line taking whatever food was there. You know, now in our tradition, the higher the lineage, they go in front. And the lower the lineage, they go behind, right? So, as the Western monk was the last in the line, by the time he reached the cakes and sweets, there would be nothing left except half a banana. Then his mind became very critical and he'd think, this is absolute hypocrisy. It's not fair. Blah, 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 blah. Right? He goes on thinking like that. Sometimes when Ajahn Chah, that is the abbot of the monastery, gave a Dhamma talk, he may say, why do you suffer? This monk would think, well, it's because you had all the cakes. Not that Ajahn Chah had all the cakes, but what he means is that the senior monks all had the cakes and there was nothing for him. After some days or weeks, when it became quite obvious that he would not get any sweets or cake, he had two choices. One, to figure out why he was suffering, or simply leave the monastery. These were the two choices. Then he began to think, and he saw that he suffered because of a greedy mind. Can you see that? A greedy mind. We all get it sometimes, you know. Though the mind complained when even the last mango was taken by the monk before him, he would think, no, I'll not let my mind go there, and stop the train of greedy thought. So he was able to overcome his greed, right? He says that it was childish and even funny that such a small and trifling experience could cause such a great deal of pain in a grown-up man. Now he was not a very young, 15, 16 monk. He was a grown-up man. But still, can you see how the mind works? So you can see for yourself when the time comes how the mind works. But he was able to see the conditioning in the mind. It is the mind that conditions this, right? And it was a training in sensual desire. So after that he learned how to control his mind. These defilements come out as temptations and desire and can cause much trouble to us. Sense pleasure like eating, bathing, or even hiking, etc., may be pleasurable only for a certain length of time. Then, when it goes beyond that, it causes misery. Isn't that so? Because the wanting, longing, craving cannot be fully satisfied, every sense pleasure leaves a sense of unsatisfactoriness at the end. Letting go of wanting or craving is letting go of dissatisfaction. When lust arises for a form, it can happen. It can happen, especially to young people. A person, it's useful to remember that every body is made up of small parts. All bodies are made up of small parts, like teeth, hair, nails, etc., etc. In our meditation, in our Buddhist meditation, there is a meditation called Asubha Bhavana, Asubha meditation. That means the meditation on the impurities of the body. Now, we don't see the impurities because it's covered with the skin. Nicely covered, right? So, we see only the complexion of the person. We don't see the inside. So, this Asubha Bhavana or the meditation on impurities could be a very good what you call antidote for this kind of unnecessary, lustful sensation. According to the Sutta, we have chosen, that is the Sutta from the Samyutta Nikaya. This is the Samyutta Nikaya, and from this, I chose this particular Sutta, the body. And in this Sutta, the Buddha shows that even hindrances are sustained by nutriment. Now, you know that in the case of a human body or anybody, even animals, they have to eat. Nutriment is necessary for them to exist. But the funny part is, hindrances also need nutriment to exist. For the arising of sensual desire, this is the nutriment. Frequently giving careless attention to the sign of the beautiful is the cause for its arising. We always look for beauty, isn't it? So when we see something not very beautiful, we look the other way, right? We always want, our eyes always want to see something beautiful. Our ears always want to hear something, some good sound. Our nose always wants some good smell. So it's like that. And the world has certain values to measure beauty. Now I'm talking only of the eyes, right? They are the signs, the signs that was talked about. That is the physical features of a person that arouses sexual desire. Careless attention means not seeing the reality. The reality is quite different. All bodies are the same, there is no ugly body and beautiful body. All bodies are the same, they are all made out of blood, urine and feces. All this dirt is also there. But nobody sees those things. They only look at a particular, thing that's in their minds. And they look at it and take that in. So that is how we get what you call demoralized, right? Anyway, this is careless attention, not seeing the reality and not knowing the right method to gain welfare and happiness. This attention is giving importance to impermanence, thinking it as permanent. Now that is why, when you look at something beautiful, now even look at a flower, say. Now the flowers, after some time, what happens? They wilt and they die, right? And then there is no beauty in the flower. But we think flowers are beautiful. You know that poet who said, the thing of beauty is a joy forever. Remember that? But it's not always the same. Thing of beauty is not always, because they are all impermanent. So we think of them as permanent, and therefore we attach a sense of beauty to things. And what happens? An increasing suffering, thinking it is happiness. You see, we increase the suffering by thinking we are getting happiness. And what is not self is taken as self. Now for people who believe in a self here, some people think that there is a soul here. Especially those who think that there is a creator and the creator has made a soul here. I don't know where it is, of course. I can't see a soul in here. Only the impermanence is here. So anyway, that is why the Buddha said this has no self and it's called non-self. So this is the cause for the unarisen sensual desire to arise and for the increase of arisen sensual desire. Now that monk, that Western monk, what did he do? The arisen sensual desire, somehow he got rid of. But what we do is, when there is a sensual desire that arises in us, we go for it. You see, we take it in as something very, very good. So now let us turn to the next one, next hindrance. That is ill will. And that is called in Pali Patiga or Vyapada. That is the second enemy of hindrance. Everyone tries to get rid of it. It creates problems in society and even in our homes. Unlike sensuous desire, this enemy has nothing positive, profitable, or productive to leave behind except regret, remorse, guilt, and pain. These are the things that ill will gives us in the end. Anger, ill will, dislike, resentment, rejection, fear, anxiety are all part of the same sensation. Ill will create strife between countries and even lead to war. As each person's karma is different, you see, your karma is different from mine. Another person's karma is different from, each other. So anyway, because it is different, we cannot think or act in the same way in any given situation. But if we can create peace within ourselves, just as the Buddha did 2,600 years ago, and his instructions are still available to us, it could extend to our family and even to our neighbors. First, we have to make peace within ourselves. If we let a slight irritation reach the stage of argument and become resentful, angry, and reject others, that will bring pain and break up relationships. Even within the home, Some inflict pain on themselves by suppressing the suffering, etc. Then the resentment, worry, and anger turns into depression, low-spiritedness, and melancholy, and inability to enjoy or be happy. Such people, I have come across many such people who cannot enjoy the moment, who cannot, because of things that are in their minds. So there is nothing that anybody can do for that. One has to work oneself. Attahi attanonato, Buddha says, that is, one has to do things for oneself. Even the Buddha cannot help anybody unless the person helps himself or herself. This is ill will towards the internal, that is towards oneself. The Buddha compared anger to picking hot coals with one's bare hands to throw at one's enemy. But you get burnt first. All this starts in our own mind and heart. And it's good to realize that the world is here within us and not outside. Lots of people think that the world is outside, but it's not so. It's here, right? That's what the Buddha says. The anger we experience about something or someone is only a reaction of our own defilements. Because we have the defilement, we get angry with the other person. Otherwise, we don't need to. Now, I'll give you an example from the Buddha's life. It has nothing to do with the deed or the doer. If we see this clearly, we have a chance of changing, but it can happen if only we are mindful. So that we see the anger as it arises. When we see someone, if we have had, some kind of unhappiness or some kind of difficulty with that person, irritation or whatever, we don't like to see that person. As soon as you see that person, all the past comes back. So then, if we see how useless it is to react, we could stop hurting others and ourselves. The famous story of the Buddha refusing to accept the gift of insult and abuse that a Brahmin gave him. I think you might know the story, but if you don't know, I will tell you later. But most Buddhists know this story. Ultimately, caused such a transformation in the Brahmin that he became a devotee of the Buddha. At first, he invited the Buddha and then scolded him, said lots of bad words to him. Buddha just listened and said, I give you back all the, I give you back the gift you gave me of insults, right? It's amusing too. But anyway, that's how the Buddha acted at such situations. People will never stop saying or doing the wrong things. That's always the way. The world is such, right? But if we follow the Dhamma, we could put a stop to this kind of behavior ourselves. We have to change. We can't change the world. You know the saying now about if there are thorns and stones and all kinds of things, you can't cover the whole world. What should you do? You cover your feet when you go. So it's like that. For it is necessary to do what we have to do now and not in the future, because we do not know what tomorrow will bring. When we get angry, remember, I am the owner of my karma. So, without blaming yourself or others, change the reaction. Why can't we replace anger with loving friendliness? Why can't we do that? Try to see something nice and good that the other person has done. Surely, even the worst person on this earth must have done something that is good. So, remember or think of something that the other person has done, some good thing. Or, we could think that the abuser is going through a tough time now, at this moment. And that's why he or she is behaving like this. Or she or he may be having an incurable disease. Or that person had never heard the Dhamma. Whatever the cause, let me be compassionate. Let me show compassion. That's how we should think. The loving kindness meditation should not be just a repetition of words, but let it change our heart and mind and make us really loving towards all beings. A truly compassionate person will look after one's family and be generous enough to help others in times of need. 6 things that lead to abandoning ill will are: 1. Learning the loving kindness object. Now, by object, what it means is, now, when we take loving kindness, we could take people, persons, starting from yourself, you can take people, not only human beings, all beings. Or you could take a country, this country and all the other countries. Or you could take the worlds, different worlds. Or you could take different realms. Like that, there are different objects that you could take along with the loving friendliness meditation. So, I hope we can do one today. So, that is one of the things that you could do, to learn the loving kindness meditation, what the object is. devotion to the meditation on loving kindness. Now, there are certain people who have told me, I can't do the loving kindness meditation because I have so much anger in me. Maybe sometimes towards oneself, I can't do it. So, there are people like that. But it's necessary to, to have some kind of liking for that meditation, because it's one of the most beautiful meditations in the world. Then the third one is reflecting on one's responsibility for one's actions. Now, even small children sometimes, they break something, or, they do something and they say, oh, it's the other person who did it. So from childhood, we are taught to tell lies, right? We are told to blame the other person, not to take the responsibility ourselves. So that is another one that could change ill will into a better situation or a better condition of the mind. Then the fourth one is frequent consideration. Now this means mindfully looking at oneself. As soon as anger arises, as soon as, some kind of pride arises, comparing yourself with others, oh, I am superior, or I am inferior, or I am equal, or whatever, right? So that kind of attitude, we can see if we have that kind of consideration, frequent consideration about oneself. Then the fifth one is good friendship. Now this good friendship is one of the necessities for all the hindrances, not only one. We need good friendships. Buddha has called them kalyana mitta. That means good friends. Then the sixth one is suitable talk. When we get together, what do? Oh, the other one, that one, about all the other people in the world we talk about. We gossip, don't we? That's not the kind of good talk. We can talk about the Dhamma, but always you cannot talk about the Dhamma. But you could talk about something you have read, something you have seen, something good, and not something that brings you only sadness or hurt yourself. Now, the nutriment for, now in that sutta that I was telling you about from the Samyutta Nikaya, it's about the nutriments that the Buddha talks about. The nutriment for the hindrances. So the nutriment for the arising of ill will is also giving careless attention to the sign of the repulsive. Now this time it is not the beautiful, but the repulsive. That is what you don't like, what makes you angry, what makes, what is full of aversion. That is an object of aversion. One keeps thinking about the harm or insult done to him or her and adds previous instances of such actions, thus increasing the suffering. Instead of, getting rid of the suffering that you have, you increase it yourself. Nobody else does it. Not the person who is, not the person that you consider your enemy. That's not the person who is making you angry. It's you yourself. So think about it. Now, we come to the next one, that is sloth and torpor. Now, sloth and torpor, this hindrance is called tina midda. There are two parts. Just like restlessness and worry, here also you get two parts. Tina midda, sloth and torpor. The Buddha compared sloth and torpor with being in prison and putting into a cell, being put into a small cell. While sloth affects the physical body, sloth affects the body. Torpor affects the mind. The mind is not totally awake when you have sloth and torpor. So that nothing good or beneficial could be done. You can't do anything good or beneficial to yourself even. The whole time you might be sleeping Or you might just, lie down on a couch or chair and just wait. That's all. So, if sloth and torpor arises in a meditator, while meditating, he or she will lose interest in the meditation and give up for lack of energy. There is no energy, right? Sloth takes away the driving power and sinks the mind. The mind comes down, the mind sinks down. Torpor makes the mind inactive and sluggish, and one may start nodding and finally fall asleep. I'll tell you another instance of where the Buddha goes to help somebody who was nodding away. One needs to create an interest in being mindful about one's breath in the present to see how it arises, pauses, and passes away. Now, I think I must tell you now, when we look at the breath meditation, right, when you look at the breath, we look at the way it arises, it comes in. We take in the breath, right, the intake of the breath. We look at it. Then there is a small pause, and then it goes out. Then again there's a small pause, then you take in, small pause, then it goes out. So it's very interesting once you get interested in it. So it is interested, if one is interested in it in that way, one will not give in to sloth and torpor. There is another thing that could be done. In order to abandon sloth and torpor, one should not overeat. Eating also can cause more than what you need, can cause sloth and torpor. Now, I come to that place where Buddha was involved in giving instructions, right? Once before attaining arahantship, Mahamoggallana was sitting and dozing. Now, Mahamoggallana was the second chief disciple of the Buddha, and Buddha had given him the title of the foremost in psychic power. There now we get two shall I say, books. One is about the Vimana. Vimana means the heavenly spheres. The other is about the Petas, that is the hungry ghosts. And both were influenced by this Mahamoggallana. He used to go to these places and find out about them, right? And come back to the world and tell people, this is what happens if you do this. This is what happens, right? And like that, he would help people to get out of their defilements. So, that is of course after this. Now, this happened before all that. So, he was sitting and dozing. That is before he became an arahant. The Buddha, having seen this, went there and advised him. That advice may help us too if we are in the habit of dozing away while meditating. I have seen many people dozing away, not all. Some people, they think that they have done a very good meditation. In the end, it's a very good sleep. The Buddha said, now this is the first instruction, change the meditation object. Now supposing your object was metta, loving friendliness. Change it to the breath, or vice versa. Or, now if that fails, if that does not work, or mentally inspect the Dhamma as you have heard and learnt it. Now, most Buddhists would have at least read one or two of the Dhamma discussions that Buddha gave, right? And might have listened to so many sermons, right? So, such things can be brought back in your mind, but not with your mouth, not with your lip. You don't say anything. You just think about the Dhamma. Or, now that also does not work. Then, recite in detail the Dhamma you have heard and learned. There are lots of chants, beautiful chants in the Dhamma. You can chant some of them to get over the sloth and torpor. Or, now that also doesn't work. Then, pull both ears and rub your limbs with your hands. Or, get up from the sitting posture. Now, so far, Moggallana was sitting. Now, get up from the sitting posture, wash your eyes with water, survey all the quarters, that is north, south, east, west, and then look up and see the stars if it's dark. Or, now even that doesn't work, right? Or, attend to the perception of light, visualizing the disk of the sun or the full moon. Now that also doesn't work. Then walk back and forth with mindfulness. Okay, that also doesn't work. Then what? Now, failing everything, lie down and sleep mindfully, but not for hours and hours, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, right? Keep an alarm. Noting when you would rise up. When you wake up, think. I'll not rest, not allow sloth and torpor to take over. Right? The nutriments for sloth and torpor to arise are discontent. Maybe discontent with the job, discontent with family, discontent with children, anything, right? Lethargy, laziness, lazy stretching, drowsiness after meals, that is too much of eating, sluggishness of mind. As ignorance is an underlying tendency, both mind and body are overlaid by it, covered by ignorance. And it can be dispelled only by energy and effort. Now we come to the last one, that is restlessness and worry. Now that is called Uddacha Kukucha. Restlessness in the mind shows itself as restlessness in the body. Now the Dhammapada, that is one of the books, one of the spiritual books, which has only verses. It says, all actions are led by the mind. Mind is their master. Mind is their maker. So we can't say, oh, I never thought of it. It just came out. It just happened. No. Even very quickly, the thought had come. That's how the mind is the maker. Restlessness is mostly due to past experiences, either done in a wrong manner or not done at all. When restless, the cause comes up again and again when we sit down to meditate, right? When we are restless, that's what happens. We can't meditate. The Buddha compared a restless mind to a pond where strong winds create high waves. For when one's emotions are restless, one gets drowned by them. Worry is usually about future events. Now, while restlessness is about mostly the past experiences, worry is usually about the future. They are imaginings, and sometimes they may never happen. Because of impermanence and change, one does not realize that the one who worries now will not remain the same to experience the future. For by then, thoughts, circumstances, and feelings would have changed. Worrying takes away the present moment, which is the reality and the only moment that we can live. Moments spent in worrying are all lost moments. Living in the present is the lesson that meditation teaches us, so that we could be at peace and be happy. This needs energy and effort. One way of abandoning this state is through substitution, that is by replacing it with something else. Give up the worry about the future and thinking of the past and replace it with positive, good, wholesome thoughts. The Buddha said, shame and fear are the guardians of the world. So, we could be ashamed to be worried and restless and let go of it. Another way is to ignore whatever the restless and worry, whatever is happening, just let it go. Ignore it. Also, see the discomfort it causes us and how foolish and useless it is. Now, these are the ways of getting rid of it. Learning the Dhamma and investigating it, and also sometimes teaching it. These may help. Avoiding restless people and associating with calm people. As unwisely reflecting on disturbing thoughts could increase restlessness, one should see that such thoughts are abandoned as soon as they arise. So having good friends is very important. Now, there is one more to finish off. That is called skeptical doubt. That is in Pali, Vichikiccha. The Buddha compared doubt to traveling in a desert without provisions and a map, so that one loses the way and may be even robbed or killed. When one has wrong view, now wrong view is the opposite of right view, which is in the Noble Eightfold Path. So, when one has wrong view, doubt arises regarding existence, whether we have come here due to causes and conditions or not. Now, according to the Buddha, we have come here because of causes and conditions, our karma. But some people have doubt about it. And some people have doubt about, the self also. Whether this has been in the past or whether this will have another rebirth or not. And also about the teacher, that is about the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. And the training is, for the lay people, it is just the 5 precepts. For the monastics, it's much more. The 4 noble truths, dependent origination, all these are doubts to some people. So, one may start doubting about one's abilities and maturity even, about oneself, and even spiritual attitudes. Then, one loses one's self-reliance, for one's emotions are uncontrolled, overcome by fear, anger, jealousy, and all these, defilements. One loses one's confidence and security. Such people cannot do anything for a long time. They are the ones who flipped from one job to another. They can't stay in one place, one job, one person, to maybe the spouse. They just leave and go. So to get rid of doubt, one has to have a total commitment to the spiritual path. Try to understand it fully and see the results as they arise when we practice. Associating with wise and noble friends is a way to get rid of all 5 hindrances. When a noble disciple listens to the Dhamma with eager ears, with vital attention, directing one's whole mind to it, the five hindrances will not be present at that time. Right? So now if you are listening with keen interest, the hindrances are not there in you. The Buddha once said, when one is not skilled in the ways of others' minds, now there are certain people who look at somebody and is able to understand what that person is thinking. But everyone is not like that. But then the Buddha says one should train like this. I will be skilled in the ways of my own mind. Look at oneself and one's mind and ask, am I often without longing and craving? Ask the question from oneself. Am I often without ill will? Am I often free from dullness and drowsiness? Am I often calm? Am I often free from doubt? Do I gain internal joy of the Dhamma? Etc. etc. You can make your own questions. If by such self-examination one does not see these wholesome qualities in oneself, then one should put forth extraordinary effort, mindfulness, etc., to obtain them. If one sees that one has these qualities, that one would be filled with joy and happiness, which would bring greater success in one's attainments. Okay, I have come to the end now. I hope you all were not bored with my long explanation. So if there are any questions, please ask. Or you can write them out so that I can see. All are silent. So then, would you like to do a little bit of meditation? Or are you tired? Okay. So, this will be a meditation on metta. That is loving friendliness, right? So now, for those who are not very familiar with the meditation, first of all, we have to sit properly with our upper part of the body straight, with the head on your neck nicely, and with the spine straight. The bottom part, of course, it's okay. You can sit on a chair even, it doesn't matter. And keep your hands in front. And when you are ready, close your eyes. Don't say what I say. Only try to listen well and think of it. Ready?
Okay.
May I be happy and free from suffering. May I be happy and free from suffering. and always, like myself, may my dear ones, loved ones, and friends be happy and free from suffering. And always, like myself, may my loved ones, dear ones, friends be happy and free from suffering. May all neutral persons, like people that we meet on the road and so on, um, be happy and free from suffering. May neutral persons be happy and free from suffering. May even hostile beings be happy and free from suffering. May even hostile beings be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in this village or town be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in this village or town be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in this state be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in this state be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in other countries be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in other countries be happy and free from suffering. May all beings in all the world systems be ever happy and free from suffering. May all beings in all the world systems be ever happy and free from suffering. Do you have any questions that you want to ask? Okay, then we will meet in another 2 weeks.
Hello.
Yes? Oh, Danny, how are you?
Good. Um, I just want to say thank you for the whole thing and for talking. Uh, it's very, very helpful.
You have no questions?
That
Have you
can,
any questions to ask?
can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Can't you hear me?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for the
Okay.
talking, for the whole talk and everything. Very helpful and very powerful, very strong. Um, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I hope you were not bored.
Thank you, Bhikkhuni. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank
So-
you, Arya. That was really a good discussion. So, enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhikkhuni.
So many have come from this vihara. I'm glad.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I hope I'll see you all next time.
Sure.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
It's a nice.
Thank you, Arya Sudhina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. May the triple gem bless all of you.